to the next topic, which is talking about ESG. So this topic about ESG is to how the ESG in construction and property development. So our speakers, let me introduce them. We have 3 speakers in this session. First, we have Matthias Gelber. He is currently the brand ambassador for Evanwood, Finland, and he is the ESG advisor for the Philippines Stock Exchange. Wow, he was voted the greenest person on the planet in 2008. I wonder, are you in green, Mr. Gelber? And we also have Roland Wong. He is Executive Director of Prismatic Technologies, an AIoT solution company that customizes solutions for governments and private enterprise, automate the gathering of data in order to solve the various pain points. Currently, ESG centric. A lot to learn from him. Last but not least, we have Frank. He is the founder and CEO of Properly Asia, familiar face, coming back on stage again, which delivers top-notch tools and application targeting property management, leasing and tenancy defect management, and effective communication. So very interesting topic and top person on earth. Let us learn from them. Frank, let me pass the floor to you. Frank, you're muted. Frank.
My goodness, sorry. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much from wherever you have been logging into world, into our Zoom box here, YouTube, Facebook. It seems we are live on all platforms. So thank you very much for that. We have 2 very special people in the room because I don't think that I know any better people to speak about ESG than the 2 gentlemen we have in this room here today. They come from completely different backgrounds, so we're going to find out a little bit more about how they got here today and what they have done in the past. And to them, I know in their heart and their soul is environment and the social well-being of everybody. So first of all, Roland, he's Malaysian. He's normally based in Penang, but today he's in KL for business. And our Orang Hijau, he's been living in Malaysia for a very, very long time, but he doesn't look that much Malaysian. He's actually from Germany. Sorry, Matthias, I'm sure that the country is still crying over the World Cup yesterday. And he's normally based in the Philippines, but at this moment he's on a business trip in Singapore. So it seems that we're a very international community here, and that's great to see. So like I just said, both of you come from very, very different backgrounds. So maybe we start with Matthias. Matthias, can you tell a little bit about your past, how you got involved in understanding the environment and why it's so important for this world? And tell us a little bit in a couple of minutes in what you currently do and what you're involved in, what's the projects that you are working on.
Yeah, hi, Frank. Yeah, thanks for mentioning about last night. That's a good reminder. And Angela, to your surprise, and I gave a talk here at an ESG conference today, and everybody was asking me, why don't you wear green? But don't worry, I'm wearing green, but I cannot show it. My underwear is green and made from organic cotton, but yeah, cannot show. I grew up in a kampung in Germany. My playground was the forest. When my late father asked me, hey, son, what job do you want to get to earn some money? I told him that my job will be to save the planet. He was shocked. You should have seen the shock on his face. His comment was, that's not a job, son. You can't make money with hugging trees. But fortunately, things have changed. And ESG makes doing good top priority at board level. Investors are rating your organization, if you are a listed company, based on ESG risks and ESG opportunities. Now we need to be specific here. We need to look at what metrics are we actually talking about, because a lot of people are talking about ESG, but they are not really specifying what are the material issues for our sector, property, and environmental issues. You're talking about biodiversity, you're talking about water, you're talking about emissions. Possibly the most critical one at this point in time is decarbonization, your total carbon footprint from an environmental perspective. When we look at social issues, again, we have a wide range of issues. We have diversity and inclusion. We have data security. We have, but maybe from a property sector, the biggest issue for the social aspect of ESG is employee well-being. And that, I think, is something that is critical for the real estate sector. Are you making sure that your air quality is good? I still remember reading this paper 10 years ago that a famous building in Malaysia had twice as much sick leave statistics compared to the Green Office in Bangi. That was a refereed journal paper from a Malaysian university doing R&D on it. I work with companies that do ESG delivery, positive ESG impact through their core business. I work with a Finnish wood modification technology that turns low-value wood into high-performance building materials, because the new mega trend in construction is mass timber. This will be big in the future. The only way we can decarbonize the building envelope is through natural solution, carbon sink solutions, bamboo and sustainably sourced wood material. Then I work with a Malaysian company that's come up with the world's most efficient industrial motor. Can you believe it? A Malaysian company being ahead of US, Japan, and Europe. You know, Japan ahead of Germany last night, Malaysia ahead of the rest of the world in terms of industrial motor applications. This is the fastest way to decarbonizing your real estate sector, because 50% of all electricity is consumed by pumps and motors. Most people don't realize that. We think about light, we think about HVAC, but a lot of things related to HVAC is pumps and motors. So sikit-sikit lama-lama jadi bukit, that's my philosophy. Let's deliver real measurable impact for real solutions. And that's why I'm so excited about ESG in our sector. Let's get real solutions that drive real performance improvement and positive impact.
Thank you very much, Matthias. That's awesome. That's a great story. And yeah, I mean, of course, our industry knows a lot of great stories, but it's often there's, I mean, and specifically at a property developers level and also at a government level, often there's a lot of talk, but very little action. But I know that you have been doing this for donkey years. You probably were talking about the environment and the social part of it before the word ESG was even invented. Let's go to Roland. Roland, tell us a little bit, because I know you're very passionate about people in general, the well-being of people, and also about the environment. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got here today and why you were involved in the property industry?
Hi, everyone. First of all, thanks, everyone, for making this possible. Okay, I would also like to start with a story that begins with green clothes. I get asked that a lot. Roland, you're in ESG, why don't you wear green? In fact, I can't show you right now, but my company logo is red. And when people ask me why I choose red, it's because I think that we are in a critical state, okay? And I will not change my logo to green until we have achieved, you know, some semblance of environmental recovery. Okay, my background, my family has been in the waste management business since I was 5 years old. Throughout this time, my dad has been talking about environmental issues. You know, he's been hammering his philosophies and his teachings into me. You know, over time, these things became ingrained. But when I graduated, I gravitated towards our technology, right? And I spent most of my focus on that until recently, when I realized that with the advent of ESG, you know, people are taking environment and sustainability more seriously, as they should, and technology is going to play a very, very big part in that. So that is why I got into ESG, and that is our core focus now.
Thank you very much, Roland. Sorry, I switched off my telephone because the mosque behind me is singing, so, and probably for the whole world to hear. Okay, thanks for your story, by the way. And when we think of property, we always think about computers and networks and IoT and data and devices and all this. But Matthias, the company you work with from Finland, which has an extremely interesting technology available is not so, I mean, it's not, there's technology involved in the whole process, but it's not that it's connecting to buildings and stuff. But in principle, at the end of the process, there's a new building material. Can you tell us a little bit more, maybe that story that you once told me about cement and steel industry and how it's polluting? Because I think that's an important part to connect as well, to maybe to share with our guests here.
Yeah, I mean, we often focus on things like airplanes. And yes, we have a high carbon footprint when we fly in a plane. But all the cement production in the world together is about 2.5 times the carbon dioxide equivalent emissions of all planes in the world together. Just, you know, imagine that. We feel bad when we fly, but cement production is about 2.5 times as much carbon dioxide emissions. Why? Because our raw material for cement, and you see it when you go through Ipoh, the nice white limestone hills. Limestone, you might remember from chemistry, it's calcium carbonate, CaCO3. Mother Nature captured the carbon dioxide in the physical form. When we manufacture cement, we burn it at 1,500 Celsius with the help of coal or other fossil fuels, so we have a double whammy. We take the CO2 out of the limestone and we release the CO2 from the fuel. It's like a gigantic CO2 emission source. Steel as well. You need very high temperatures to manufacture it. I mean, steel has one benefit, which is it's easier recyclable. Cement sequesters a little bit of carbon during the curing, but it's responsible for about 8% of the world's CO2 emissions. But a lot of the big cement companies, including YTL in Malaysia, are currently working very hard on decarbonizing the cement sector. But when you're looking at wood or bamboo, you have a carbon sink. Or even we have done experiments on palm oil trunks. We have turned palm oil trunks into nice stable slabs. These trees, they have sequestered carbon during their life, and currently they just get knocked over in the palm oil plantation and left to rot, where all the carbon that was sequestered is being released again. So let's focus on nature-based solutions. This is the mega trend that's happening in Europe and in North America. A lot of high-rise buildings are built from mass timber. Even Singapore, the latest building, Nanyang Technical University, $150 million building, was built largely from mass timber only. But the problem is that mass timber came in from Europe because we don't have the supply chains here yet. So we are working with sustainable wood plantations that can grow timber very fast, sustainably done, and then turn it into high performance durable material. The kampung house was built from maybe balau trees or whatever. We don't have enough of those trees in the rainforest anymore, so we need sustainable sourcing. But we need to turn this light, fast-growing wood species into high-performance material like the bala wood. And then we can go back to where we used to start with natural material. Nature has the solution. The other thing that I got involved in, the EcoMoto, the Malaysian product, we just did a project for 12 hospitals with the Ministry of Health. We replaced 600 motors in the span of 1.5 months. These motors are air handling units. They drive the air handling unit. Average saving in this project is 40%. So the Ministry of Health didn't need to pay any money. The money comes from the electricity saving over the next 2 to 3 years. Very fast ROI, and the carbon credits, more than 10,000 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per year saved via these 600 motors. That's ESG in action, decarbonization.
Excellent. I mean, I love these numbers. I spoke to one of the guys from EcoMoto the other day when I met them, and when they showed their results, it's just, I mean, I'm an electrical engineer, so I understand some of the stuff that they are doing, but it's unbelievable. And yeah, these are the simple, relatively simple technologies that we have to start applying in building all these smart cities. Because to be honest with you, I think that the build of the smart cities is completely not that smart at this moment yet. And yeah, what you just said about wood as well. I mean, wood is the only building material that can regenerate itself. And that to me remains unbelievable. So great that these projects are coming to Asia as well. Fantastic. Roland, from your perspective, what can you tell us a little bit more on what because your product in principle is very technological. There's a lot of technology involved, but there's also a lot of the the governance part involved as well, right? That's part of what you do.
Yes, you can say that. First of all, yes, what we do is quite technological. I wouldn't say that we are focusing on special or unique emerging technologies. What we are doing is we are actually bringing existing technologies together, packaging it in a way that makes it easy and sustainable for companies to become ESG compliant. For example, corporations are going to make a lot of decisions regarding ESG in the future, right? So it is important that they get the correct information, accurate data. And one way we do that is we start by baselining. You know, a lot of corporations today, they still don't have very accurate or comprehensive data when it comes to their energy or resource consumption, right? So logically, that's the best place to start baselining all those things, get a real idea of where you stand, okay? And then with that data, you can use the data in various ways, of course, to make better and more informed decisions, okay? You can feed that data into AIs or softwares that can help you achieve efficiencies in all the energy consuming systems or operations in your company, right? For example, like Matthias said just now, he has something that targets AHUs, you know, and he has an AI that, okay, I don't know what the magic is, does something, okay, with AI learning, leveraging on data to make it learn, react faster, you know, and create the savings. So that is quite a big part of what I do as well. Of course, there are a lot of verticals in this, okay? There's the chilling system, there's HVACs, there are fleets of cars, buses and trucks in companies, okay? Pumps and motors and all that, okay? So, and the thing is, before ESG came, not a lot of people are doing all this, you know, but it's starting, you know, with regulation, with quantification of data, like you can quantify things now. We know what to do. We know what to tell the softwares. We know what to tell the AIs, you know, and it will slowly sikit, lama jadi bukit. Just as much as
Fantastic. Okay, good. I think we got to keep that sentence in. That's fantastic. I have a whole set of questions for both of you guys, but in the meantime, we have also guests in the room that are asking some questions. So we have Aaron Ong, and this is a question specifically for Matthias. What resistance do HVAC and industrial good manufacturers have in terms of ESG adoption?
I mean, essentially, the guys who are adopting ESG principles by way of being softly forced through ESG funds or stock exchange are listed companies. So we need to distinguish here between listed companies and not listed companies. For listed companies, ESG is a survival issue. I mean, it might be required by the stock exchanges. There are different rules in different countries. And it's basically a lot of money has been pouring into ESG funds. That's how ESG ratings came about. You're trying to exclude the high risk companies that have a lot of risk to ESG exposure. It might be a data security breach, or it might be your assets, your coal-fired power plants are close to seawater. So there's a gigantic climate change risk to your assets that you own. Then your return long-term for investing in the stock might actually be not that good. So you need to look at the individual company and are these guys as well doing ESG because they want to do the right thing? I mean, some aspects of ESG can make you a lot of money. So I wouldn't 100% agree that ESG is only driven now because of the financial sector and the investment sectors asking for it. People have done decarbonization in the past by saving electricity because you're throwing money out of the door if you're not energy efficient. If you're not water efficient, you're wasting a lot of money. if you are not looking after the productivity and health of your employees, your wasted money on paying people by being on sick leave is a gigantic expense to your business. So certain aspect of ESG make a lot of operational sense. So ESG is not that, most people haven't got a clue about what ESG actually is about. They talk about ESG, but you need to break it down to specific aspects. And some aspects of ESG pay for them city. Europe will, not be having money. I mean, it's not a secret, right? Top Glove had issues with, labor policies. And the US cut them off the supply chain. Boom, the share price went down. So these are the risk exposures and at the same time, the opportunity exposures. So it depends on the individual company, where they are and how much they understand this as an opportunity to get more investors in and as a protection of capital value by managing risks properly and as an opportunity to get new business because you're helping your customers to achieve their ESG targets. Efficient HVAC, efficient motors is the best decarbonization strategy. If you have a company like Petronas that has said, we are going to be net zero by 2050, you cannot achieve that through carbon credits. That is called climate neutrality. That's different in definition to net zero. If you have made a net zero commitment, you need to operationally decarbonize. Otherwise, you have no credibility. And then you need efficient HVAC, efficient motors, efficient vehicles, electric vehicles, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions. Scope 3 is your supply chain, your upstream. Then you need to go into, hey, my suppliers, you need to decarbonize the product or service that you're supplying to me because that is part of my CO2 emissions. Loads of opportunities out here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matthias. Great, because you hit the nail on the head. I mean, often the resistance, I think, in the industry comes definitely, and that's not, Aaron, that doesn't just apply to HVAC and other industry goods manufacturers. The resistance comes from not having the right knowledge, understanding ESG well enough. And again, I think that's also part, if I see the number of ESG topics in these 2 days that we have here, it's amazing compared to, for instance, last year. So yeah, hopefully all of us, we're participating in bringing more knowledge into the industry and making everybody understand. Great, thank you very much. The next question is actually for Roland. We have Asman, and Asman, you probably looked at my notes because you asked something that is almost in line of what I just wanted to say. So recently we had the climate summit in Egypt. And we have had many climate summits all around the world. And I have the feeling that there's a lot of talk. I don't know if you're even aware that in Egypt, there was 45,000 specialists from around the world, politicians, people working for all sorts of organizations. 45,000 people came to that summit. It's unbelievable. And in the end, there's a lot of talk, but very little doing. And that scares me at times. So one of the questions I actually discussed, I wrote down was about greenwashing. So let's talk a little bit about that. But the actual question is, Asman just asked, is how certain are we how certain are we in achieving the net zero target for 2050? And if we don't achieve the target, what's next? Roland, what would you say?
Wow, I think this is a really simple one. How certain are we? We are not certain at all, okay? There's a huge mixture and a very diverse group of people who believe and do, believe but don't do, don't believe but do. You guys get the idea, right?
Yeah.
And how certain are we? Even experts disagree, okay? So we are not certain. The only thing we can do right now is I think that you can choose to be certain with yourself that if you want to save this planet, if you want to make this place a better place for everyone, we want corporations to behave, we take that step. We make ourselves that certainty. So I think that's the only thing I can say about that. Yeah. Any thoughts, Matthias?
Yeah, I agree with you. We are responsible for our own carbon footprint. So everybody should ask themselves here, are you climate neutral? If not, then you should be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And if we don't achieve the target, I mean, we need to hit that target very fast. 2050 is far out. This is a roadmap. We all should be part of the solution by going climate neutral now.
Yeah.
You can even Google it. UNFCCC has a program, Go Climate Neutral Now. At least measure your carbon footprint and reduce it and compensate for the CO2 emissions that you cannot do. I have a forest in Panama, 4 hectares. It's a certified carbon sink. I could sell the carbon credits. I'm not selling the carbon credits because it's part of my personal carbon sink. I wrote a book in 2016 in Malaysia. I made it the first carbon sink book. I used vegetable ink to print it on FSC certified recycled paper. Sikit-sikit lama-lama jadi bukit. It starts with me and you.
Yes, I think many people at this moment are looking at what the politicians are doing, but the solutions really got to come from us, the people, to take care of Mother Earth. So I can't agree more than both of you. So thanks, Asman. I hope that answered your question. What is next? Well, obviously, most likely these targets were set by politicians. What's next? They come up with a next excuse and the next thing. But again, we have to move, and there's lots and lots of little movements. There is bigger movements. So I just heard from you, Matthias, that you said there's these specific programs. I know that you have access to some really nice links. Maybe you would share that so we can actually share that with our delegates. That would be nice. We can do that afterwards. We send an email to everybody so they can start measuring their own carbon footprint. So Asman, thank you very much for your question. Let's go to John. John also asked a question. How can ESG data be used to facilitate the green finance of property and smart city development? So how can ESG data be used to facilitate the green finance of property and smart city development? A little bit more. Are we having good ESG data and assessment processes to ensure the money is properly spent in those development projects? So who would like to go first? I know it's quite a comprehensive question. So how can ESG data facilitate the green finance of property and smart city development?
Okay, I can take that first. And again, a pretty simple answer. ESG, again, like I said earlier, is about quantification of data. Once you quantify things, you make it easier for the investors of the portfolio to make a good decision, right? They will be able to see with more clarity, with more transparency, that the corporation is doing the right thing, right? Of course, nothing is going to be perfect at the beginning, but I think this is a good start. And things are just going to get better over time. Sikit, sikit, lama, lama, jadi bukit. Wow, that's a great one.
Can you repeat that, but now for everybody else in the room who doesn't speak Bahasa Melayu?
Little bit, long, become a lot, right?
Okay, good.
I learned that from a taxi driver in 2004 when I came to Malaysia. He asked me, got job? I said, no job, just lepak around. What you do? I said, oh, I try and help people to go green. Oh, Malaysia cannot. Malaysia, no money, no talk. Then we kept talking. And then later on, he said, oh, what you're trying to do is change people's mindset and do it with small steps. That's sikit, lama, jadi bukit. But, you know, for practical reasons, I mean, if you're a bank or if you are looking for a loan nowadays, some lenders or green bonds, if you deliver certain decarbonization targets, you can get maybe an interest rate of 2 points lower than if you don't deliver that measurable impact. Comes back to what Roland was saying, you need to have the data. Or right. If you are an investor and you're looking at buying over or investing in an asset or a REIT, what is the power consumption per square meter in kilowatt hours per square meter? If it's 100 or below, you have a very efficient building. You don't need to spend much money on upgrading it. If you have a power consumption of 300 kilowatt hours per square meter of office space, then you've got a rubbish building. You really need to spend a lot of money on upgrading it, or go in with an indoor air quality monitoring device. One of, you know, the items I think that Roland will supply with his IoT things. Check the air quality. If you are renting or investing in an office and it's got a rubbish air quality, don't touch that asset, because that asset will lead to your people who might work in this asset being off sick a lot more frequently than in a good air quality, eco-friendly office. I remember that story from a developer in the Philippines. They used to have an office in Makati. They had a nurse working in the office because they had a lot of people with headaches and other respiratory diseases every day visiting the nurse. They decided to move out of that office. They built a Zen, eco-friendly, great indoor air quality office. They brought the nurse over to the new high-rise building, but the nurse had virtually no cases anymore to deal with. They could empirically see that this shift to this Zen, eco-friendly, good air quality office had massively reduced the sick leave of their employees that was triggered by bad air quality in the building.
So simple, so effective, unbelievable. And actually, if you look at some of the solutions in the market, it's sometimes simple, but it's all based on knowledge and data again. Quick one for Roland. This one is a question coming from Aaron. We got a lot of questions, which is great. For Roland, what analytics do waste management companies use to meet their ESG targets? Very interesting question, Aaron.
Wow. Current of mine, none. Okay. I don't know about others. There are a lot of entities in the waste management industry, but I would say this with certainty. Okay. A lot of the data gathering now is done manually. Okay, and not comprehensive enough to be accurate. Okay. Therefore, it is imperative that they start automating. Okay, so they can gather real-time data and have comprehensive data to act upon.
Right.
Maybe
Okay.
if I can just add on that in terms of specifics. I mean, a waste management company has a lot of vehicles running around. So your scope 1 emissions, your carbon footprint coming from the fuel is one of the significant metrics that you need to look at and you need to reduce. Then your employees are, doing a lot of hard physical labor. On the social metric front, you need to take good care of the health and safety aspects of your employees because they could have issues over the long term, moving all these buckets and stuff like that around. So those are some of the metrics that you could be focusing on from a waste management company perspective.
Great. Thank you very much for both your answers. I hope that answered your question, Aaron. So I would like to have both of your takes on the following. So this morning, and also during these 2 days, there's a lot of prop tech companies, technological companies with dashboards and databases and all this. So the story is always collecting data, creating data, and making sure that through AI and machine learning and all this, we get data for ourselves and get improvements, hopefully into a process of continuous improvements. Now, the question now is the following. When I talk to clients, for instance, for which we are collecting data, are you prepared to share your data into a pool where now all of us can start doing benchmarking on your area, benchmarking on your city, benchmarking on your country? So how open should the data become? Okay, that's number one. And what can we do with the actual benchmarking? Matthias, maybe if you would like to take this one.
Obviously, there's value in benchmarking, but it's always important for people that there's confidentiality as well.
Absolutely.
That reminds me, like 20 years ago, when I was running a training and consulting company in the UK, we did this facilitated benchmarking on health, safety, and environmental metrics for British industry, supported by the Confederation of British Industry, CBI. And this was actually a very powerful process, because when people can realize they are doing a lot less than others in certain aspects of environment, health, safety, or ESG management, that's usually when senior management wakes up. Oh, wow. Like that metric that I used earlier on. How much is your kilowatt hour per square meter of office space if your office space consumes 200 kilowatt hours per square meter and the guy down the road 100, that means your competitor has half the electricity bill of what you have, and electricity is going to go up soon again in Malaysia, right? So why are you wasting money? Why are you throwing money out of the window? Sometimes you only realize how inefficient you are and how much optimization improvement you have when you can effectively benchmark with comparable similar situation type benchmarking that is realistic. Why does this guy who has as well a high-rise building like I have, an office that's 20 years old, why has he got half the electricity consumption of me? I must be doing something wrong. I should take action, get a study done, and invest in some improvement because we are throwing money out of the window.
Okay, awesome. And you know, I have sometimes the feeling that people have a fear of sharing. They think that everybody can see from the data that they share that it is shared with their name tag on it, so that others can see. But in principle, that's not what benchmarking is about. So Roland, I know that you do baselining and in your implementation of green solutions. So can you tell us a little bit more on your take on that, on collecting data, sharing data, and then benchmarking?
Okay, actually, I will connect it to the last question one of the guests had. I think I misunderstood when he asked what data is, what are waste management companies doing. I think he wants to know what should the waste management companies be doing. Okay, and then relate back to your question about sharing data in a bigger scale. Okay, so when you when you collect waste, okay, it's important to segregate the things that you can recycle, okay, or repurpose into something that is usable again, right? And there's a lot of different types, and in order to do all this reprocessing, there's a logistics cost, there's technology costs, various other costs, right? So the only way for us to be able to do that efficiently is if we know what kind of waste is coming from where.
Correct.
That means all the waste management companies working together, pooling that data, right? So we know where to put the processing plants, okay? We know how to handle logistics, because it doesn't make sense to try to repurpose something, but then that cost is bigger than the cost of losing the actual waste.
Right. Okay, thank you so much for that answer as well, Roland. Matthias, we have another 4 minutes to go. Is there anything you would like to share with our guests? In motivating them, let's put it this way, because again, it has to come from us, the people, right?
Sikit lama-lama jadi bukit.
Yes. And remember that taxi driver, he said, Malaysia, no money, no talk. His idea was people will not do it because it costs money.
Right.
The other day, I was giving an ESG talk to a listed Malaysian company, and I charged them top dollar. And I told them, guys, when I came to Malaysia in 2004, I would have had to pay you, the board, to listen to my hijau talk. Now you are paying me top dollar to learn about ESG. ESG is a new currency, a new driver. You are allowed, you are required to do good for people and the planet, social, environment, and governance. Manage it all in an equitable way so nobody is left out, and look after your shareholders and the minority interests. We are permitted to do what we dreamed of as kids, make this world a better place through the pathway of ESG, doing good for people and the planet. Let's make it happen.
Thank you.
And there are some jewels out there, like this Malaysian industrial motor company, where Malaysian technology and innovation is ahead of the rest of the world. And I say this as a German, we are the engineering guys, we are the industrial motor guys. This Malaysian company is better than the German technology.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Matthias. Thank you for your kind words and your advice. Roland, your famous last words for this session.
Famous last words is wow. Let me tell you guys, 40% savings is a lot because on average, the solutions that I provide gives 20% savings. So 40% is great. I'm so great they're from Malaysia as well. And the last thing I want to impart is please don't fight. You know, environment, sustainability is a very touchy issue. People tend to lean too much on one side, you know, and start bickering about that. Okay, but I think the thing to remember is don't bicker, don't aim for perfection. Sikit-sikit, lama-lama jadi bukit.
And get doing.
That's really well.
And get doing. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We're at the end of our session. I know both of you are going to be traveling home soon, so have a safe trip and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks again for sharing all your knowledge. Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Frank. Thank you so much, Matthias. Thank you so much, Roland. I have learned a lot other than ESG. I learned that Matthias is green, Roland is red. That is how I'm going to remember you. And I remember Sikit and I remember Phuket. Thank you for reminding that. We learned that since very young. But
and I'm Dutch.
We are forgetting. You are Dutch. What color are you?
Orange.
Orange.
We're going to be world champions.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Angela.
much.
Thank you.
Very, very exciting. Yeah. See you again.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you for your time.